We'll call to order the Kennedale City Council meeting. Today is December 20th, 2022 at 5:30 PM. We are at City Hall Council Chambers at 405 Municipal Drive in Kennedale. Members of the public may also join us, and well, of course, you may join us in person. But just as a reminder, you can also access a live feed at www.cityofkennedale.com/videos. The virtual option does not allow for public comment. But just as a reminder, you can also access a live feed at www. To address the Kennedale City Council regarding an agenda item, would ask that you submit a request to speak form before the meeting begins. So if you would like to speak, please make sure that the forms have been submitted. To address the speakers are allotted 3 minutes and must limit your comments to the subject indicated on the form and should address the Kennedale City Council as a whole rather than individual members or staff. Pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071, the Kennedale City Council reserves the right to adjourn into executive closed session at any time during the meeting to seek legal advice from the city attorney on any item posted on the agenda. Reserves the right. Secretary, can I get a roll call? Closed session at any time during the meeting.
Rocky Gilly, place 1.
City attorney on.
Present.
Posted on the agenda.
Brad Horton,
Present.
Secretary, can I get a roll?
Kenneth Michaels,
Here.
Austin Degenhart,
Present.
James Connor.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you.
Brad Horton,
So we'll begin with our work session.
Kenneth Michaels.
And the first item on our work session
Degenhart.
is discussion of Tarrant County Transportation Bond for Little School Road Expansion. And we'll let our city manager, Daryl Hull, give us a report on that. The first item on our work session is
Chris got
discussion
here?
of Tarrant County Transportation Bond for Little School Road Expansion.
I have Chris from Friesen Nichols here. He'll give us the update for what we're looking forward to with our little school road transportation bond from the Tarrant County 2021.
Do you guys have the handouts or,
I didn't have
okay,
it.
yeah, I can, does that have a plug-in here?
Yeah, it should be underneath.
Do you guys have the handouts or,
I didn't have
okay,
it.
yeah, I can, plug in here.
Yeah, it should be underneath.
In your handouts, do y'all have the proposal with the map? I could just speak to, I'll have that copy. So if you turn to it's probably best to explain off of the map. Which was, near the end is the extension project limits. So this map shows the full extents. Near the end is the extension. And so what this shows is doing an alignment study that would go from Kennedale Parkway to Dick Price Road. And the understanding that the application that was submitted to Tarrant County is to go to New Hope. Given the development potential of that area, what we have in this proposal is to do the alignment study for the full length. We would base that alignment study on GIS information initially. And then once we developed each of the options and come with a preferred alignment, then we would do the survey and all the detailed work for the portion from New Hope Road to Kennedale Parkway in prep for the bond program project. And so what we have in this scope includes doing that initial study and then doing the detailed survey. And then the utilities, studying the utilities in the area, doing all the drainage analysis and environmental, for the preferred alignment. And so that's where the initial work, given that there's a lot of options and the homes that are along New Hope, is to do that alignment study so we can kind of identify what's the best option to go forward. And at that point, take it to do survey and the more detailed design work. And so that's where the initial work. And so the proposal here is to conduct that alignment study and basically do what we call the preliminary engineering stage. And that will establish the alignment, the right-of-way footprint. We also have in here doing the right-of-way acquisition services. So that can be done concurrent with the design. So once that gets underway, then we can go forward with the detailed design. That's what we've included in here. And the idea is to get that going so that really the critical path is to get right away underway. And so doing all those studies in order to identify the footprint of the road. Because potentially, you know, as you're going with the grade separation, the bridge over the railroad, there's a number of options on how we do retaining walls or if we grade it. All that's kind of balanced with the amount of property needed. And so that's the purpose of this study. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions that you have.
For the people in the audience and following along at home that can't see the map that we're referring to, this would be a 4-lane divided road similar to Kennedale Little School Road as it currently is. It would be the same format as it currently is. It would just extend across Kennedale Parkway, initially to New Hope, and in the future, perhaps to Dick Price.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Because the project that was submitted to Tarrant County with a partnership goes to New Hope. It'd be as a 4-lane divided roadway.
As it currently is, it would just extend across Kennedale Parkway.
And so just for the record, the bridge over the railway is planned for phase 1 then. Okay, perfect. And then as far as the right of way, the 10 parcels of land, I guess, that have been identified, is that just for phase 1 or does that basically anticipated for the whole?
Yeah, so that would get just phase 1.
Okay.
So the idea is that we would plan the full length and, you know, at that time, if we want to go forward with trying to acquire the full right of way, we could. But the right of way services we have here is from New Hope to Kennedale.
Is that basically anticipated for the whole?
Yeah, so that would get just phase 1.
Okay.
So the idea is that we would plan the full length and, you know, at that time.
Either one of you want to,
Go.
Okay.
But the right of way services we have here is.
So I know we need that bridge there. That's quite obvious. We've needed that there for quite some time. However, under task 5, environmental services, everyone knows that I'm the environmentalist here and I will die on that cross. Item B, conduct a site visit to observe and document existing conditions and identify potential section 404 permitting issues with project limits, blah, blah, blah. However, it does go on to say, as well as potential threatened or endangered species habitats will be identified. With that being said, I did look at the timeline that you did have set for that, which is only 15 days, which started yesterday on the 19th. And it runs for the, concurrent for 15 days after that. 24th, 25th, 26th, no one's going to be out here to observe anything because that's Christmas. I don't know about you, but I'm not going to be out there even though I live here. The 31st, 1st, and 2nd, no one's going to be out there. So your timeline goes from 15 days down to 9. And you're doing it in the dead of winter when some of those potential endangered species and animals over there that live in those forested wooded areas, they're hibernating. Plus, you also have the endangered species, the monarch butterfly, which is a transitory annual migrant pattern through there. How are you going to identify those transient species in the dead of winter in hibernation in 9 days?
Well, yeah, on that schedule. So when we I developed this proposal in October and used that as kind of a timeline scale. So that schedule would shift to be after the first of the year. And then those services, we had a couple of months in. So but I get your point in terms of like kind of what the key, so once we identify the preferred alignment, then what our environmental scientists do is identify, well, one, what's the impact to the waters of the US where we're crossing the creeks? And then if there's any wetlands that we need to avoid in that area. And of course, any endangered species that might be within that corridor and kind of looking at that. So another element of the scope is notifying the THC to identify if there needs to be more archaeological type work. And so usually we do that in terms of a letter. And then based on their feedback, we'll determine if it'll be a shovel test or if there'll need to be more extensive testing.
I would actually prefer if you could possibly work into it at a 2 time, once during the spring, once during the fall. Therefore, that you can actually look at different species during different times of the year, because like I said, I'm an environmentalist. I will die on that cross. I don't care who has to say anything about it. I want everything protected as much as possible over there. I don't care if it's the smallest beetle. Protect it at all cost. Thank you.
Yes.
Look at different.
Councilman
species during
Degenhardt.
different times of the year, because like I said, I'm an environmentalist. I will die
Going,
on that
going
cross.
back to the overall project schedule,
I want everything protected as much as possible over there.
it looks
I don't
like
care if it's the smallest beetle.
from the timetable that we have in front of me,
Thank you.
Yes.
we're looking at right-of-way negotiations occurring in June of 23, but based off of the dialogue I just heard, it sounds like we're a couple of months behind that. Is that an accurate?
Yes,
assessment?
sir. With y'all's approval, that start date would shift to be in January, so it would shift this about 2 months.
Okay. So if we're looking at, based off of the dialogue I just heard, it sounds like we're a couple. Utility engineering, surveys, looks like we're down to right-of-way easement documents, environmental. Okay. From a global perspective, when would you anticipate construction being able to commence? Because it looks like the schedule that I have in front of me goes through right-of-way negotiations.
Yeah, so what this, the idea here is to get the project footprint identified and then do the right of way. And once that's identified, then we would do the full design. And so you'd be looking at a summer of 24 date for construction.
Okay.
And that is also consistent with what Tarrant County understands as well from the application. And so you'd be looking at
With having 10 parcels that may need to be acquired based upon the layout.
date for construction.
Some property owners may not be interested in selling. Will that affect the layout so that we look at optional routes, or what do you see the next step being?
Yeah, so that's the idea here, that ultimately we'll have more than one option. Considering the environmental impacts, considering impacts to property owners, existing structures, also the design of the road in terms of crossing the railroad. And so the way we approach this is we'll determine, there might be like 3 different alignments, and they each have kind of pros and cons. And we also accompany that with a cost estimate for each one. So then we're presenting back to you guys each of those, like a matrix of each of the alignments.
Sure.
And then that's what we determine the preferred.
Okay.
And so that's kind of that approach to this scope, is to get to that point.
Ultimately, where I'm going with this is I don't want eminent domain to be a topic of discussion for this alignment, if at all possible. I'd like to make sure that we stay very far away from that.
I was just about to ask if eminent domain was going to be an option. And if it is, we need to take it off the table immediately.
That's the alternate routes.
Yeah, no, we should take that off immediately.
Okay, thank you, sir. That's all I have.
Thank you.
We'll
Um,
kind of keep going around because I
okay,
know there'll be more questions
To,
that come
to
up.
follow up on that, and I wish we had a picture of the map that the people could see. But I am concerned that about the people that live on Linda. They built their homes there without the expectation of a 4-lane divided highway coming through that way. And I would strongly support alternative routes that did not use Linda Road to connect to Dick Price, that would use another route and not disturb their homes, no eminent domain issues there. As well as that would unlock some of the property to the south of Linda for possible development, more so than expanding Linda Road.
So on this map, yeah, I hear exactly what you're saying, and I'm just wanting to explore. So we're coming off Kennedale Parkway. The blue dotted line, that comes to the backside of Linda. What is? That
Um,
is the current thoroughfare route.
Yeah, looking at
Okay.
y'all's thoroughfare plan, it swoops a little bit lower than Linda.
Okay, so it, right,
Yeah, I was, that's been a concern of mine, and I believe the people that live in that area, since this proposed project was announced, that Linda would be turned into a connector instead of a residential street.
so it does look like what, based on this current map, the current city thoroughfare plan route is not through Linda. Okay, but
Yeah.
there are, I see what you're saying, alignment options with the
Right.
red dots
Yes.
that are being considered. Right,
Yeah, and to, I drew those various, I mean, they're unstudied. It was
Sure.
just kind of some ideas, but certainly hearing the comments that Linda would not need to
Sure.
be an option.
So my question would be, going back to your time frame, is once these surveys are done, you're looking to present to us this information in, as far as the footprint and the survey and the different matrix by
It would
That-
be basically end of March, early
into
April.
March? Okay,
Once we get started, we can update the schedule as we
Right.
go. I mean, right now it's just kind of a liquid document to get us started and get us moving. Once we find the route, that's what we're trying to accomplish today, to give us a direction with it. That's the reason why it's on the work session, so it gives us direction. There's a whole lot more coming
right,
off of it. But to get started, Tarrant County's wanting us to get started.
sure.
I don't want to say we're on a timeline with them, but we are. So we need to find out what direction we want to go, and Chris will bring back our options.
Okay, perfect.
One follow-up question. In terms of the fee structure, some of the alternatives we mentioned, is that included in what's been presented to us? I guess the total of roughly 361,200 plus.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Okay.
I think, the points around, when do the environmental work, they were very flexible in that approach. And yes, like multiple alignments, kind of hearing the comments of the concerns, we can adapt those. And right now, yeah, there's no eminent domain in this scope, but, we did have right of way service. Okay.
Is this budgeted?
Currently it's not budgeted. This is also part of the 50-50 process.
Okay,
Or, so at this point, we would up the fees for the engineering side of it. Once we're completed that, then we'll receive 50% of the funding, correct?
Yes, sir.
Once construction starts, it will be on a monthly basis as we're getting refunded our upfront cost.
So the total project or the scope of the project, again, this is just for a refresher, was 13 million. I think we submitted this at $13,884 and we received six something from,
6.5.
so 6.5
yeah.
from Tarrant County. And so how that works is we have to put up front basically, let's call it 14,
Yeah.
the 14 million, and then we get reimbursed for it.
As we're going.
So what is our plan for the 14 million?
Well, that's a good question. And
Is
that,
this an appropriate time to have that discussion?
uh,
If you'd
yes
rather
and no. You know, to indicate that in the past, as our discussions has gone forward, we've looked at getting a bond to
Right.
be able to upfront the money. And obviously, as we're going forward, we can reimburse in that concept and get other projects completed at the same time. We just haven't got to that point yet. You know, for the last couple of weeks, we've had discussions in reference to the Tarrant County bond, transportation bond. So we were somewhat, I don't want to say behind, but there's other cities that's presenting what their plans are. So that's what we're doing. It's a point of starting and giving the option of where we're going to go. Because we don't have a direct line of where we want to put the roadway.
Right.
And we can't do anything without doing that first.
Okay.
And that's the reason why Chris was here to help us go forward with it.
Okay, so this will be step one, and then we can discuss the bond options and how we want to go forward with bond options at a later time.
That's correct.
Okay, very good.
I believe that we're in what I'd call the budgetary estimate portion. We're looking at the options, and then there'll be a rule of thumb budget put on that, and then afterwards, we'll have to think about the timing of the bond election and those sort of things, because this amount of money, this needs to go to a bond election. It honestly does. This would be way in excess of the good faith nature of what a CO is for, in my opinion.
Any comments?
Real quick, looking at your overall project schedule, what does I don't see a draw schedule in here for the, from your portion of the $361,000.
In terms of how we would invoice the work.
Mhm.
So in doing the engineering service, we would invoice monthly. And obviously we have several subs here, like the survey sub, when they would complete that work, we would invoice you for that.
Okay.
It would be a monthly deal and the Tarrant County side, like once the design is done, and Tarrant County would pay the 50% and then the construction they'll pay on a monthly basis as well.
So my follow-up to that is, if we're on the hook for 180 of this 360, do we have that 180 budgeted at this moment?
To indicate it's budgeted, that's not budgeted.
So maybe a better question to ask is, where would we be drawing from for this portion of funding until we go to a bond, if that's the collective decision?
At this point, I think there will be a couple of different options that we can look at. Obviously, one of them could be our reserve. We do have right at 27% reserve. We can feed off of that to get us started and get us moving. And obviously, as we go forward, the process we're looking at now is about a year. At that point, we'll be able to budget and have a better options of how we're going to move forward with it.
I would, to be quite honest with you, I really wouldn't want to touch any reserves. I think Rocky's right. It does need to go to a bond election. To be quite honest with you, I think, full transparency with the citizens of the city of Kennedale is what we promised them. I think we should give that to them. We shouldn't be touching anything in our budget right now. I think, our reserves need to stay there. And they are called reserves for a reason, and that's just in case anything were to happen. And, we have an entire fiscal year to go. So God forbid anything does happen, but if it does, we would need to touch those reserves. So to Rocky's point, I think it does need to go to a bond election. And I think that the citizens need to have their input heard.
Let me follow up on that if I may. From a global perspective, is May enough time to have this for a bond election? So to be on the ballot then? So then we're looking at November perhaps?
Most likely.
So just play it out with me. We wait until November for the bond. I would hate to sign a check for 360 grand for something that could possibly fail from the citizens' perspective, right? That's a lot of money to lay out. On the flip side of that coin, I understand the importance of getting this ball rolling, especially since there are matching funds out there. It's definitely a tight position to be in, but I'm in agreement that for an outlay of cash of this magnitude, I think it would be better to wait for the bond. And in the meantime, if there are things that from a design and planning perspective that can be done in preparation for that bond, while not committing $360,000 of cash, that also set us up for success if the bond passes. I think we might explore those options as well. So ultimately, we've got a proposal for 360 grand here. Could be on the November bond. What can we do between now and then that will set us up for success if the bond passes, but at the same time, put out as the smallest amount of money possible between now and then?
I think at least we need to find the direction we want to go. That's just the bottom line. The discussions that we've had for last month on moving forward with the project with Tarrant County, we're obligated, and I don't know what the time frame is, so forgive me on that. There is a time frame associated with it, and I don't quite know.
Generally, they've been talking like a 4 to 5 year window, is what I've heard with.
For completion, or is there a certain timeline that
I don't think there's any timeline where they're going to remove the funds, but that had kind of been when the applications were submitted, that was kind of the window that was expected.
So for clarification, if we were to wait until November for a bond election, would delaying by 11 months impact our funding potential with Tarrant County?
I don't think so. I mean, there's a number of projects in the program that are spread out, some starting next year. So there's flexibility in how each city wants to execute.
Okay.
Forgive me for thinking out loud, I guess. Why couldn't we do a bond in May?
It's not that we can't. You're looking at something we have January and February to get.
Yeah,
We have to submit it. Honestly, I feel that we need to do some town hall meetings, get everybody involved to know what we're doing. If it's something that you do want to do in May, obviously, we'll do everything in our power to do that. But we are in a massive time frame for that.
we have 2 months, 60 days, well, 60, about 58 days because of February being 28. But we have approximately 60 days in which we can have at least 2 town halls immediately. I mean, one can be set for like the second week of January. The second one could be like the beginning of February. And then we can have a bond go forward in May. I mean, there are options. If we need to make this go a little bit faster, we can. It is within our parameter to do so. So if we're going to go the route of a bond, we don't have to wait till November. We can do it in May with the general elections that are coming up. And we can still have citizen input during January and February. And, you know, we also have the access to city hall websites. There's also social media presence. We can get that out to let people know, hey, this is what we're doing. This is what we want to do. We want your input. Where there's a will, there's a way. We don't have to wait until November.
Let me suggest this if I may. Since this is just a work session and this is new information as it's coming up tonight. If I could just get from each one of you kind of what your thoughts are, if you've had time to think about this going to a bond election. You said yes. You have, I mean, and you don't, if you need some more time to think about it, I certainly understand. Rocky said yes. Councilman Horton?
I think funds of this magnitude, yes, but could I also throw the possibility, you know, reading some of this budgetary information that the county has said they'd reimburse 50 to up to 100%. Is there a possibility they would reimburse us for all of it with this?
No, it's a 50-50 match.
Okay, gotcha.
My only concern about doing a bond election in May is normally you got to have everything ready by February to put it on the ballot. So I don't see us doing that. Then we need to decide if we want to do a GO bond or a CO bond.
Well, it'd be a GO because,
So
yeah, GO
we
is,
want the citizens to
yeah.
vote on it.
Right.
And in the past, it's always best to do your GO bonds elections in May and not in November. So, I mean, but if we need to do the bond to get the funding, then that's what we need to do.
it would be tight because I think the time frame is actually a mid-February. I don't think it's the full February. So, and you're already looking at, we're at the end of the year. So you really only have 45 days and to get that information that we would need to make a presentation to the citizens or town halls, we'd really be jumping through hoops to make that happen for mid-February. So,
Yeah, there's a lot of preparation we're going to have to do. Literally, we're bringing the idea to you now. What Chris has presented is all we have.
Yeah.
So you're asking us to come out and create this road, and honestly, 60 days or less.
There's a little bit of an expression that if you feel froggy, jump. And if you're saying that we need to jump through hoops, might I suggest someone bring in the Ringler Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus and get those hoops because they need to be done. It does need to be a bond. I think it would go well in May because we do have place 1, place 3, and place 5 coming up for election. Most of Canada will be coming out. That is when you're going to see most of your, you know, turnout. If you do it in November, you're really not going to see that much of a turnout. There's not really any kind of an election going on in November, to my knowledge. So May would probably be an optimal time.
I don't disagree with that. It's just, can you make it happen? I mean, optimal time or can you make it happen? Those are two different realities.
If I may, can I ask a quick question? What due diligence needs to be done, but from where we're at now, high level conceptual, to being prepared for a bond?
I want to refer to Chris. He has definitely done a lot more of this than I have.
Yeah, you know, there's services in here on the alignment study that would be valuable for a bond to identify the alignment. If we want to get the costs down from where we had here, I mean, like the right-of-way services could be deferred to later. The detailed survey could be the right-of-way. So there's elements I think we could scale this down to just be the alignment study and doing the environmental work, those elements that are kind of critical to identifying the route. So that could be one option if you wanted me to, you know, kind of rework this to be that component.
So thank you for that. So with that being said, my preference would be, let's get done what needs to get done so that we can go to a bond, whether it be November or next May. Timing to be determined. We know we have time to do things in preparation if we're not looking at crunching it to this May. Let's take care of those items. You know, that could come in, looking at the cost proposal in front of me. Sub 100,000 is kind of where I'm thinking it would land for all of those items to be done in preparation for a bond. And then when the bond happens, we can move forward with the remainder of them. That's my humble opinion on it.
I'm in agreement with that. I'm in agreement that we don't need to rush it and get it wrong. We need to make sure that this is right. It's a big project and we need to make sure that we get it right.
Two quick things here. One is the conundrum of wrapping the study in with a bond. You haven't sized it, so you don't know how much to ask for in the bond. I mean, that's, it makes the guess even rougher. And the second thing is, I know that traditionally railroads do not like level grade crossings or single grade crossings. In your experience, will the railroad help us in a monetary fashion on separating these grades?
Yeah, so the plan here is to do grade separated. And yeah, my experience is the railroad has not, contributed financially to those kind of things. If you can trade them, like if you have at grade you're getting rid of, then there's a negotiating point. But for a new route, there's typically not a financial partnership with the railroad.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have one more comment in reference to the bond. Going with May or even November, if we're wanting to add more to just this bond other than the roadway for the transportation, this gives us an option to go in November to present that as well, besides having one bond for one goal. It's something I think we need to really consider. For instance, there's been talks for years now in reference for a public safety building. This is that same option to put this on this bond, to have one bond besides having multiple bonds going forward. So if you're looking at an election bond, this would be that time to be able to come in and present that as well, besides just one transportation.
One other thing, do we know what it would cost to hold just a standalone election? The figure that I remember from the past is somewhere in the $10,000-15,000 range. I mean, that might be a possibility, throwing a date out. Maybe you have maybe you have an off-cycle bond election. It doesn't fall in November or May. It's just a possibility.
Yes, that is an option.
Any other questions?
I don't have any questions, just, I think, whether it's off cycle, whether it's in November, whether it's in May, bond needs to happen. And to your point, it would be better if we put that on there with a public safety building as well, because we are needing one of those. We've been needing one of them for years. I'd just say thank you for your service and your time, but yeah, I think we need to get into this just a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to move to work session item number 2. And this is discussion of Alta. We're going to ask our new community development director, Mr. Nathan Gonzalez, to come up and give us an update.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Welcome.
So it's a pleasure to be here with you. I believe the city manager is going to do an introduction here in a minute, so I'll kind of wait for that. But just to give you an update on Alta, so I've been out there to the site. I was actually out there today. What they've done is I rolled up. They've got this was about 11 today. They had 3 more poles that they needed to pull down from 20+ feet down to 14 to be in compliance with our UDC. They had a forklift out there getting that done. Later this afternoon, I got an email from the construction team that was out there. asking for their CO, saying they've completed everything. And I like trust but verify. So I will be out there tomorrow to double check that. On my visit today, half of the back side of the fencing has yet to be stained. The poles were faced as requested. I understand the way the fence is being was installed was an issue. There are some safety concerns that I share with had the infrastructure or the support railings be placed on the inside in accordance with UDC. Being as that that's, multifamily, there's probably some kids and you do have a retaining wall where I've worked a lot of cases before where those kids will get on those fences, kind of peek over. And so with it reversed, you have a no step situation similar to a pool barrier where you can't get a foot up on there. And then so what they've done is face the pole, so it's not as unsightly, but I will verify that those 3 remaining poles have been pulled in addition to the fence staining. So we have had our engineers go out there, look at the retaining wall. The mortar's been installed or there's certain spaces there or areas where they needed to just put a little bit more on there. But overall, it's looking pretty good. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have specific to Alta.
Great. Anyone have any questions? Yeah, Councilman Horton?
There for a while, there were some late night trash pickups going on. I just wanted to verify those had kind of stopped.
I can look into that.
You wouldn't mind.
I did see the dumpsters there. Typically, I've got to look at what our trash contract states. A lot of times those early pickups are mandated in that contract, not before 7 a.m. So if that is occurring, what I would like to see is an email from a resident or maybe a call. Forgive me, PD, but maybe a call that's a non-emergency, saying a noise complaint, because that call for service will get tracked. And then I can do some follow-up on that. So I have worked noise complaints before, particularly with trash pickups. Certainly something I can look into.
Okay, appreciate that.
I believe we've had that rectified. We're good.
Okay.
The police department, I do not believe has received any more complaints. And we have a security officer that patrols that area. And he has made contact with the driver and we made contact with the company itself. From my understanding, they're now doing it after 7 a.m. And I haven't received any complaints either.
I'd just like to say thank you, Mr. City Manager, for following up and all this. And I would ask that as we move forward, that we continue to be attentive to the concerns of our citizens there in Steeplechase. But I do thank you guys for
Absolutely.
doing this. Yeah.
Absolutely. Also, in related update to that, I did stop by Fern Court and Derby Drive. I met with a resident there on Fern Court to just ask about the lighting, because I know that was a concern. He said it's much improved. Still hoping to make contact with folks on Derby Drive. With it being the holidays, I only saw one house there that had vehicles there. That was just prior to an inspection I had scheduled. So I'm hoping to make contact with folks in the community.
Yeah, thank you very much. Anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, I had a few. One of the concerns was a barrier to prevent vehicles from rolling off the parking lot into people's backyards. And I believe there was some work on some sort of retaining device. Do we know if that has been completed?
Sure, I could provide you an update on that. So I did get wind of the maybe some sort of guard and concerns about that retaining wall, particularly that drop off. What I will say is that our UDC lists, I believe, 3 options. So a tire stop, which usually about 4 inches, 4 or 5 inches, or they have to provide a curb, which is anywhere from 6 to 8 inches, or some sort of other obstruction. What they've done is they've provided that curb there without the, so there isn't a guardrail or anything like that, but there wasn't a requirement for them to actually put that in there. I did discuss that with engineering on best practices, and we really couldn't point to something as a requirement versus a request. When you look at a walking surface, the building code requires a guard over an elevated walking surface. And the way that that's built and designed and graded is it doesn't meet that requirement to provide that actual guard. Now that's separate from a guard rail. But trying to look at what we have in the building code, what we have in the UDC, to require that. Unfortunately, the way the UDC is written here, is that's, they have the option to provide either the tire stop. Again, those are usually really low profile, or the curb, which in this instance is, anywhere from about 6 to 8 inches, I believe.
And then there was the concern about what we call colloquially the no man's land area, the strip that is between the,
Little easement.
Yeah,
actually.
the
It's a fence
easement.
easement. I believe.
and there was some trash at one time in that, and that was supposed to be landscaped. And then there was an issue with trees that were supposed to be planted. Could you give us an update on that?
So specific to that, 3 or 4 foot section that's at the bottom of that retaining wall, that has been kind of cleared out. What I would recommend and what I've talked to them is having that ground cover get reestablished so that you don't have the runoff or the sheet flow at the in excess of there. Now, that's why I wanted to stop and talk with folks on Fern and Derby, because I wanted to discuss that with them. What is it looking like? What is impacting your property? There is I think a perception where if they see any overgrowth coming in that area, that we don't want that, we want to clear that away because we don't like the look of that. But that overgrowth or that growth actually provides some soil retention in there. So I think it would be a good thing. Now, as far as trash goes, that's certainly something that I've worked a lot of trash complaints and things are getting in back there. And that resident is, I would hope to hear from them and I can work to get that resolved. Your second point was for the trees out there. So we did do a landscape review on there. And there were a subject of 3 trees. There was a discrepancy between what's the plans that were out there versus what city reviewed at some point in the last months before. And so it come down to the discrepancy of 3 trees. In one area, what they did is the plan called for about 9 or 10 trees, and they provided, I believe, 13 to 14. So they over provided trees in that area, and those 3 trees were omitted. There is a single tree there where originally it called for 2. Now, for me, if you look at urban forestry plans to date, we're kind of accustomed to seeing trees planted and spaced out uniformly, right? But there's a new, it's not new, but in urban forestry, there's a plan to call for grouping trees together because they can support each other. They can share nutrients. And also when we talk about that retaining wall, those roots get established, help hold that soil in. I would much rather see that along the perimeter of that area as opposed to a little island in the parking lot where I already have a tree. The plan maybe have called for 2. They provided 1 with a street light or an elevated light fixture. If you have 2 there, eventually those trees are going to grow. And then now you kind of lessen the actual light that sheds down. And I believe for public safety reasons, you still want to have some lighting in that parking lot. So hope that answered your question.
Yes, it does. And we're very, very happy to have you, Mr. Gonzalez.
I'm happy to be here. I am.
In relation to the trees, are these are these the 3 foot caliper ones or 3 inch in diameter?
I don't know. That's a good question.
The reason why I ask is because most trees that are being planted in residential areas right now
Mhm.
are considered ornamental,
Mm.
which means they're not going to grow to very large heights. Are the trees out there that are in the open spaces mature trees that will grow to high, anywhere between 20, 30 feet? Or are they the ornamentals that are going to grow to like maybe 15 and then stop and probably die off within about 2 years?
That's a good question. I'm not an arborist, so I look at a landscape plan. I'm looking for what's there, what's not. As to, I can look at an oak. I sure love pecans. 'Tis the season for pecan pie, right? So, I can certainly look into that. Now, caliper trees, you bring up a good point. 2 inches is usually what you see a street tree out in the parkway, 3-inch ornamentals. But it still goes to the point of if the UDC for residential light fixtures caps it at 14 feet, and I have an ornamental tree which will grow to 15, then I have a conflict there already. And so if it is an ornamental tree, which I can confirm for you, I'm hoping that we'll still get some lighting in that particular area, not along that perimeter. What they did do is they pulled all the lights from the perimeter and lowered them to 4 feet. But I can certainly look into that for you. Will do.
Councilman Degenhardt, do you have any questions or?
None, thank you. Welcome aboard.
Yeah, thank you so much.
you, Mayor.
Good job. Okay, we'll move to work session B, discussion and a request for clarification of items listed on the agenda. Does anyone have any discussions or requests for clarification? If not, we'll move into the regular session. All right, we'll move into the regular session. We'll have the invocation and pledges. And I would have asked Councilman Horton to do our invocation and Councilman Michaels to do our pledges. And we'll do our invocation first.
Thank you so much for this celebrate the greatest gift you've ever received. I pray that you make us ever mindful of that, not only during this, but during all. Father, as we go about the city's business, we ask for your blessing over our great citizens, over our great city. We ask that you give us all wisdom and knowledge. Go about this great city. Matters. God, again, we thank you for your sonship. And in this name, we ask for praise.
Okay, we're going to move into reports and announcements. And the first thing is we have some special recognition of outgoing mayors and council members. The first person that we have to recognize is Brian Johnson. And Brian has served the city of Kennedale for many, many years, about 20 years. He was on planning and zoning from 1999 to 2005 and was on council from 2005 to 2014 and was mayor from 2014 to 2021. We do have a plaque for him that we'll get to him. And then I'd like to recognize Linda Rhodes. She was on city council from 2018 to 2021 and mayor from 2021 to 2022. We also have a recognition plaque for her that we will get to her as well. And then we also have recognition for Mr. Hollis Matthews. He was on planning and zoning from 2001 to 2004, and then mayor in 2022. And Mr. Matthews is here to receive his plaque tonight. So I think maybe Rayanne has gone to grab it real quick. So we will now we'll have our updates from members of our city council. And let's let Councilman Connors go first.
I really don't have anything to report at all. Been, answering emails and, talking with citizens and just generally running around the city. So, I do have something to report. I was at the hometown Christmas tree lighting.
I was going to remind you of that.
Yeah. It was beautiful. It was nice. Josh Altum got some really good aerial photos from a drone, so I did enjoy those from our councilman. And just the general, vendors fairs that were going on. I was at both of those. We had a lot of good vendors come out. Did appreciate them. Wish we had more of a food option, but that's just me. I like a burger, not Mexican food, but hey. Just like I said, generally run around the city, talking with people, and yeah, tis the season.
Thank you for that. Councilman Dagenhart.
I don't have a large update today, but with the holidays upon us and cold weather coming, I wish everybody a Merry Christmas and hope you have some firewood stacked.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Councilman Gilly.
Well, with most of us, with most of you here, I was at the I-2820 connector interchange groundbreaking, and that was cold and interesting. And that project that we've been hearing about for nigh on 15 years may get started soon. Was at a Simple Simon's ribbon cutting. There's a really great little pizza restaurant in town center. I recommend that you'll all try it out if you haven't already. I met with 6 or 7 business owners, just dropped by, checked out their business, said hi, told them that we're here to help them succeed. And that pretty much wraps it up. Oh, I was unable to make the Christmas festivities, holiday tree lighting. I was sick as a dog. But anyway, that covers it.
Glad that you're feeling better. And I'm sorry, I'm going to go to Councilman Michaels. I jumped around. So Councilman Michaels, go ahead. You're not going to be last.
Well, I did attend a lot of events this last month. I did attend the construction public meeting for Sublet Road at the high school, and I think that's supposed to kick off in February. Is that what they said, James?
January.
January. So that's something that's needed. It's going to get away with that little small bridge and widen the road and actually have sidewalks for the high school kids. I did take my tent down from the hometown Christmas. I spent every weekend up here from November to December with doing the hometown Christmas. I did attend the Southwest Connector groundbreaking with Rocky and Councilman Connor, City Manager Darrell Hull, and you were there, right? And Councilman Horton. I did visit a business with Councilman Gilly and Mayor Joplin on Dick Price Road, 501 South Dick Price Road, Old Castle Infrastructure. And we actually got a plant tour and everything, and it's a pretty good business. They're doing well in Kennedale. And on December 10th, I had the pleasure of doing the Mayor Red Kettle Challenge. And I'll let the mayor update on that, how much funds we raised. And I did attend the ribbon cutting for Simple Simon Pizza. And I'm looking forward for some other businesses that's going to be coming up for ribbon cutting. So, and that being said, everybody have a Merry Christmas and stay warm.
Okay, Councilman Horton.
I would echo Councilman Michaels and Councilman Dagenhart. Wish everybody a Merry Christmas, prosperous New Year, stay warm. I attended the Southeast Connector groundbreaking. I was there for the Sublet Road meeting as well. And one thing I would say also is that I would echo Councilman Gilly's statements at the end of our business meeting on November the 30th. And I want to thank you, Mayor Joplin. Thank you, City Manager Hull, for your efforts with this interlocal agreement with Tarrant County Precinct 2 for the proposed road improvements. And to our citizens, our mayor and city manager are basically stepping up to bat for us. And, they're in essence helping us get the most bang for our buck for the city or your assets, resources, if you will. So thank you both for your efforts with that. Also the tree lighting ceremony and all the hometown Christmas events, hats off, City Manager Hall. I know you had a big part, Councilman Michaels, looking at you here. But that was really great to see everybody together and just the sense of community that brought. I really think was fantastic and look forward to more of that type of stuff. And I mean, the feedback I got from all that was really positive. And I think that may be kind of a new idea here with the city, but I would, certainly encourage, more that to continue and more of that. And also gotten to meet with several businesses. We've got some great business owners, some great entrepreneurs, and I know we're going to get to meet with some in the early part of the year. So I really look forward to that. And I think we've got some great things happening here in our city. So.
Agree. So I'm proud to be up here with this team for sure. I have a laundry list. They always say, do you have your laundry list ready? Because I do attend a lot of events, but I'm going to cut this down. You were almost very lucky. My printer didn't work. I'm like, man, they're going to be really lucky tonight. I don't have my notes. One of the best things that I got to do last month that I didn't say is to join the staff for the Thanksgiving meal. I really enjoyed that. That was great. Thank you so much. The food was delicious. Attended a chamber meeting. Chief Brown gave a fire safety update. It was really good. Everyone needs just those reminders. Tarrant County Precinct 2 Commissioner Allens had a Zoom call presenting the Southeast 82287 connector project. Make note of this here and for everyone watching. We will be having one here January the 10th. 6 o'clock right here. And it's going to be, we'll be presenting that same presentation and you'll want to be here because it's going to affect us for years. Pardon me? Oh, the 12th? Oh, well, I need to change my calendar. Okay.
Yeah, we had some problems this morning with the date.
Okay, January 12th. 6 p.m. here, and we won't have another council meeting between now and then, but I know there'll be information coming out on social media and we'll be posting that as well. And yes, myself and the majority of council participated in the groundbreaking for the project. The hometown Christmas kickoff on Saturday, November 26th was cold, windy. Most vendors had to leave early, but the day continued with performances, singing, praise, worship, dancing, Christmas cheer leading up to the huge tree lighting, the Grinch, the big arrival of Santa and Mrs. Claus. I want to thank everyone who made this a success. The next day was definitely better with better weather. We had performers, visitors, and food vendors. We also had on the 3rd of December, Christmas Santa workshop with decorating cookies, ornaments, letters to Santa. And a very special thanks to you, City Manager Darrell Hull, for the Christmas vision and the lead role in giving Kennedale the start of a new tradition with Hometown Christmas. There were many people that worked really, really hard on Hometown Christmas to make it a success. A huge shout out to Councilman Michaels. You were at every single, there was nothing that Hometown Christmas did that you weren't there the entire time and the entire month before getting ready for it. So you definitely get the overall go-to elf award for sure, without a doubt. You are the go-to elf. Well, that's good. I'm glad to have overachievers on this team. Definitely. Shout out to Lori Sanders for all her work with the vendors and throughout all the events. Special shout out to the person responsible for decorating all the city buildings. All of this is Lori Boyd. Huge shout out to Jeff Navarez for being the MC with the bestest the entire time. You know, you kept everything going and you're just a natural at that. Thank you so much. I had, and so with that, I'm really looking forward to what we do next year with it. You know, we'll take what we did, what did, and what didn't work, and we'll make the adjustments, but I think everyone loved it. I love seeing all of the kids and the people come to the park and just enjoying that and taking pictures. It was amazing. I had a real treat in November 30th to speak to the second graders at Patterson. We talked about what council does and what they can do for the community. That was just a real treat. We did, as you mentioned, on the 30th, we signed interlocal agreements with Tarrant County to fund road projects, and our city manager will discuss more about that in his update. I was invited to Iglesia, our church, to their International Day. And then we already talked about the manufacturing plant that we toured. That it's really is fun visiting our Kennedale businesses and seeing what's behind those. You drive by it, you're like, I wonder what they do. So it's really fun to go in and see the businesses, and also seeing businesses that are here to stay and are here to grow. And to be a part of that and to merge them with our community. I attended the Tarrant County Mayor's Council. The agenda was a presentation on Fort Worth's plan for broadband and a swearing in of the new chairman, my friend Mayor Lori Bianco of Dow Worthington Gardens. On the 7th, I attended a Tarrant Regional Transportation Coalition presentation by Michael Morris, who is the Director of Transportation, on funding the large projects for North Texas. That evening was a Christmas event hosted by Texas State Representative David Cook. And just so you know, these events for me are a way for us to bring possibilities and opportunities and funding to Kennedale. That's why I go. December 10th then was really, really fun. The Salvation Army Red Kettle. I was not able to be here. I already had out of town plans for that weekend, but staff and board and councilmen stepped up to cover the kettle ringing. We pledged $500 and raised over $1,100. So good job, everyone. And we'll do an even better job next year. I do want to just let everyone, just for the people that did show up to ring the bell, I want to give them special recognition. Thelma Kobach, Hawk Kennedy, Brad Horton, Rayanne Byington, DeVell Coleman, Rocky Gilly, Daryl Hull, Kenneth Michaels and Tiffany Michaels, Tamiko Sargent, Lori Boyd, Chief Michael Hogan, and Fire Department C Shift, Ryan Florence, Brian Harrell, Creed Costin, Brad Birch, Austin Landry, and Blake Bynum. In closing, yes, I'm almost finished with this. In closing, I want to share something that happened at the Santa workshop. So just imagine the ornament tables, the decorating the ornament table. It's just Councilman Michael stepped in to cover that. It was glitter. Just imagine all these little kids on a table with every kind of color, glitter, glue, ribbons, glitter glue, imaginable what that table looked like. And I was just having a conversation with the little boy as he was painting his ornament, you know, just small talk. And he had that ornament was covered every color you can imagine and every glitter imaginable. And I said to him, oh, wow, you're using all the colors. That's what Christmas is all about. And he looked up at me and he said, no, that's not what Christmas is all about. Christmas is about Jesus. And I said, thank you for that. Thank you for that. So that was just something I tucked away, those little treasures that we get, you know, during this time. So with that, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And I will turn this over to an update from our city manager, Daryl Hall.
Wow.
You were at a lot of these events, so I just cut yours short.
Right. Well, a lot has been said about Kenneth Michaels, and we haven't said enough about the man. He's been here every day since we started the idea of the hometown Christmas. He helped us put the tree up. He helped us put the lights up. He helped us do everything. He literally was here before I was every morning. And even at night when I'm leaving, he's here again. So we can't give you enough thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Let's just go. Get a big round of applause. Well deserved, well deserved.
And as you can tell, our hometown Christmas is done for the most part. We do have one more big event, which is Sunday. So I'll tell you Merry Christmas as well. I hope I don't see you before then, so I want to tell you Merry Christmas as well. Okay, updates. The Text Dot Southeast Connector Project, our date has changed from January the 10th to the 12th. There's a conflict in the dates with Text Dot. They asked us to have it on the 12th, so we will do that as well. That same night, we're scheduled to have the P and Z meeting. We have changed that to go to that Tuesday, which will be the 10th. So there is a change in the dates. We're flipping them. And there's a couple of different reasons why we're wanting to do that. One, with us having the P and Z on a Thursday, it gives us, it's very difficult to get all the information out to the council for them to study, to understand what's going on for the council meeting that Tuesday. So the staff has a hard time getting it out. With us moving it to Tuesday, or from Thursday to Tuesday, it gives us the opportunity to get the data out, give it to the council. They can study it and understand what they're going to be discussing on that Tuesday. So with us moving the P and Z meeting to that Tuesday, that will be continuing on throughout rest of the 2023 for sure. To give you a streets update, as you know, we have completed Joy, Cooper, Corey, Edwards, and partial 3rd Street. In January, we're scheduled for more street repairs overlays. We will do 4th, 5th, Broadway, and Jonah. And that is with Reynolds Asphalt. So if you're not aware, asphalt cannot be laid when it's cold. They were scheduled to lay in December, so the weather did play a role in that, but we are scheduled in January. I'm not sure that's an even better date, but we're going to give it a try and see if we can get some streets done. So you should see us having some street repairs. On the 17th, I'm sorry, not the 17th, 2 weeks ago, we had an interlocal agreement with the Tarrant County Precinct 2 to be able to come out and also provide some street repairs and reconstruction of some of our streets, which is Eden Road, New Hope Road, Sweeney Height, and the rest of 3rd. We signed for the $870,000 for that to be completed. We do not have a time frame at this point. We know we have a year, or Tarrant County has a year to have it scheduled. At that point, if it doesn't take place, we'll have to get another interlocal agreement. But we should see movement on those streets as well here in the near future. So I look forward to at least getting 1 or 2 of those projects in 2023 completed. We did have a ribbon cutting from Simon's Pizza. We also have Mr. Wally's Pickles. That's in that same here in the town center. I do recommend you go out and visit with them and see what they have to offer. They have a lot of great choices. They also have seasonings go along with anything that's pickled. Okra, pickles, anything. It's not just pickles. I thought it was just pickles, but it's more than that. Go visit them, and we'll be doing throughout the months. I don't know if you're following us on Facebook or social media platforms, you will see that we're sharing different businesses throughout the weeks and months. As the council members and myself or new businesses come in, we're trying to highlight them and let everybody know that they're here. We want our citizens to know they're here and they're wanting to serve us as well. So if you're not following us on Facebook or other platforms, please do and go visit the businesses that we have. I want to ask Chief Brown to come up. He's going to give us an update, particularly with the weather that's coming this weekend, and also give you an understanding of what we're preparing for as we move forward into winter months and what our capabilities are and what we will be doing for our citizens.
Good evening. So one of the things we started looking at, when we heard that the severe weather was coming in, we looked at, kind of on a narrow basis of, what are we going to do in case of, right? 2 years ago, when we had Snowmageddon come in, we reacted a little late into the situation. We were able to get, some, warming centers set up. But, you know, in looking back on it, we should have done it quicker. And we need a better method of getting that out to the citizens. So there's several things that we're doing to do that with bringing on Elizabeth. She's taking care of a lot of our social media stuff, our website information as well. And getting more of the word out to be able to distribute it to their citizens is very important, and we're doing that. There's also some mass notification stuff that we have available that we will be utilizing, which we did the last time as well, but we've got a lot more people signed up for the mass notification over the last year and a half. So as far as notifying them that these warming centers are available, we've got a lot better way of doing that. But like I said, I kind of started off looking at it on a, now I say a narrow basis because I was looking at it as warming centers. We also need to look at it as cooling centers as well. We need to look at it from a broader perspective. If we have a tornado come through, shelter locations. So we're kind of growing that, okay? So sheltering is sheltering, whether it's cold, whether it's hot, whether there's a disaster on the south side of town that we need to bring people in and give them a safe place, safe haven for a short period of time. So what we've got coming up for this weekend, well, let me backtrack. So from the emergency management side, we're a part of the Tarrant County Emergency Management Plan. We pay a little bit of annual dues to afford us what their plan is, and that's what we run off of, and it helps us a great deal, gives us resources and an organizational setup that we can use. And one of the annexes of that is sheltering. So what we're looking at doing going into this weekend, you know, our Texas weather, it's crazy. It'll be 90 degrees one day and 10 degrees the next. Coming up, our weathermen are projecting a cold 3 days. You know, last I saw, they're talking about a little over 72 hours of freezing below 32 degrees. So we've already got in place some of the identification on what those warming centers will look like for us. As an example, if we need to open up a warming center, we will start with the senior citizens facility. And the reason we looked at that one is somewhat twofold. It has the facilities. It has restrooms for those that may need handicap type facilities to access into. But it also gives us refrigerators there for if somebody has medications or we need to bring food in and keep it cold. It has cooking facilities if indeed we need to heat up food for those people from a long-term basis for a couple of days. So that's our first avenue, first location for a warming center. Second location would be the community center, close proximity. Any resources that we need to share between the two. We've got very similar facilities. Both of those will hold up to hold about the same amount of folks. And then as an alternative location, I reached out to the Methodist Church today, and they said that we can have access for a third location for a warming center there as well. And with them, they have very good facilities for us, more bathrooms, and they also have the ability for keeping food and medications cool, cold, and also cooking facilities as well if there's something that we need to do. So that's kind of what our plan looks like. We've set up some criteria, and I've done a lot of evaluation and study on what that looks like in different cities across the nation. What is the criteria that we use to open a center? And we're still trying to evaluate what that is. A lot of them that I've seen, a lot of the cities, they say if the freezing temperature is beyond 3 nights in a row, that a warming center will be opened. And another is high winds and heavy moisture, precipitation fall, and how that affects. And a lot of it will be based off of what we ran into 2 years ago, was what the Texas Power Grid did. Do our citizens lose power? If they've got power, they don't necessarily need a warming center. So I say that to say, me as emergency management coordinator for the city, we've set up a plan with city manager. He would basically be the one that says it's time to open it. And that triggers myself to contact all of our department heads and start our process of getting that open and getting that out to the public. Any questions?
Excellent.
I have a quick one. Sorry, James. You go first, James.
I was just gonna mention, in addition to the people, if you're watching this live and you have your pets outside, please bring them in. Thank you.
Are there portable generators or generators that will be available at the senior center, the community center, and possibly the Methodist church? Is that something we have?
We have access through Clifton and some of the rental locations if we need generators to support that. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And one of the pluses that we had, and and I keep using the term snowmageddon, it taught us a lot. One of the big pluses that we had for our town here is the area here never lost power. City Hall never lost power. Police station, all of the city facilities, the churches over here in our proximity didn't lose power. So that tells me a lot, quite honestly, from the power standpoint. Now, that doesn't, it can change if overhead lines get a lot of precipitation on them, freeze and break. That's a whole different issue, right? But yes, we have access to obtain generators for just that.
Anyone else? Good. Thank you, Chief. That's
Ah.
very good.
Okay, I have one more. All right, I have the bio for our lovely Nathan Gonzalez. Obviously, he was up earlier and he gave a great presentation. And I'll give you some background how and why he gave us such a great presentation earlier. And I want to say that he has stepped in from the get-go and has had no problem going out, communicating with our citizens, our community as a whole, and he's fitting in just perfect. And I can't be more proud of him for being here. I'm very grateful for that. Nathan Gonzalez is 17-year local government and has held support roles in law enforcement, code compliance, building inspections, and city planning. He has previous work for cities of Hearst, Denton, and recently joined us from the city of Lido, where he was there as a city planner. Nathan holds an associate's degree in construction management from Tarrant County College, a bachelor's degree in manufacturing and industrial management from Tarleton State University, and a master's degree in organizational leadership from Oral Roberts University. Nathan is a licensed code enforcement officer, maintains several certifications from Interlocal Code Council. After hours, Nathan teaches construction management at Tarrant County College and is a small group leader and member of the Gateway Church of North Fort Worth campus. Nathan is married to his high school sweetheart, Rosie, and has 2 daughters, and together they live in Fort Worth, Texas. Nathan, thank you for being here, sir. Okay, I'm done. Yes, I'm sorry, I was not done. We've had a couple of concerns, and some complaints in reference to Magnolia Hills Phase One, Colette Sublet on, speeders, just traffic in general coming up and down, Colette Sublet. Our police department was made aware of that. It was about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. And even before that, they have already started, just been have a more of a, presence in that area. If Captain, Eric Carlson is here, do you have any, updates or anything that you can share as far as complaints or what you have done to litigate some of the, traffic conditions? We really haven't had, any accidents or anything to truly say that there's a true problem, to go out and address to that manner. It is a residential street, so there's restrictions to it to begin with. But here in the future, we'll have a traffic study of doing the speed limits. We have a traffic counter, a traffic speed trailer that's able to count and pull data of the speeds over a long period of time, besides just one officer out there sitting and making counts or bringing data that way. If you can expand on that a little bit, Captain.
So we obviously, by now, kind of into a geographic. We've entered into a community policing and geographical beat policing process, and the police department's been going on since about July. Pardon me. We have actually that beat area over there actually has an officer assigned to it. They go out there on a regular basis and they're trying to make contact with the citizens in that area. I know for a fact that he has actually spoken to one of the people that were complaining out there. We did set up some enforcement stuff out there and did some monitoring. To my knowledge, there hasn't been any citations issued for speeding, but they have been monitoring that area, kind of keeping track of it as they go.
Do you have any plans for the trailer to go out there? I know there's still construction and other activities that's taking place. Do you see a future of putting a trailer there?
I think it's definitely something that we can do, and I can address that immediately. We can probably get that moved out there. Currently, that trailer is sitting out on Linda Road, just kind of as a warning there to kind of keep trucks and through traffic out of that area down there, where we had some issues a couple of weeks ago. So as soon as we get something finalized there for some permanent signage, we'll probably be moving that trailer.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Just to confirm, will the study show the number of vehicles that come through on a given day?
When we do a traffic count study on that, yeah, you'll get dates and the number of vehicles that go back and forth.
And is there a current speed limit on that street there on Collet Sublet in the Magnolia Hills?
Should be about, I'm gonna say it's probably 25 miles an hour.
Okay,
Because typically, if it's not posted, the prima facie speed limit is 25
25.
miles.
Okay, but there's not a speed limit sign there currently, or?
I would have to go out there and look. to be
Okay,
honest with you.
awesome.
Just
There's-
a-
I
there's
can
one
answer
on
that
the-
question. I live on that street. There is a speed limit sign coming off Sweeney Height at 25. Magnolia Hills does not have a speed limit
I don't
sign.
have a speed limit.
No.
Just out of curiosity, and this is more of a question for the city manager, given that it is an HOA, can speed bumps be installed if needed?
No, it's a city street. It's not a HOA.
Additional question?
Also, we are in the process of putting a 25-mile-an-hour speed zone. We've been in contact with Arnold to be able to do that. That would be falling under his guidelines at this point.
Excellent. We done with your update? Okay, excellent. We're going to move to financial reports, and we haven't received the financial reports, but you're going to give us an update on the finance reports.
Yes, we are, we're having some difficulties with our budget as a whole. We have had our current auditor that's coming out that does our annual audit in itself. They're also helping us go through the process of our budget currently. We have found some discrepancies within the budget itself. With the involvement that I've had with the budget and with the overturn of our finance director, I've asked for the auditor to be able to come in and obviously audit the budget, see where the discrepancies are, and to give us the findings of what they have found and give a suggestion of what we can do to ratify the issues if such.
And we should have that information by,
Right, currently, we're looking at 2 weeks, so we should have it in January. Prior to the council, you should have the report in hand that you can study it as well and give a feedback on what you're looking for. As well, I will have my recommendations if any to move forward. Looking at the current budget, we do see the discrepancies. We do see how we can fix what those issues are. But I want an auditor to come in to identify that and give their recommendations besides me going in and doing it itself.
excellent.
And before you kind of move on from that subject, I would actually like to ask the city manager, since this has been happening for like the last 3 months now, I actually do keep a record of the budget for personal safekeeping, of course, and for my own personal records. So I would like the budgets for October, November, and December monthly itemized, redid and then re-presented to council when it's been fixed, because I don't want an updated figure just for January, because the budget that we got in October, the budget that we got in November, or I'm sorry, September, November, and October, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The last 3 months, they've all been off. I want a reconciliation if possible for those 3 months, including this month as well.
Yes, we'll have a full itemized report for you to look at, look over the last 3 months from October 1st.
I'd just like to add, when people hear the word budget, it's, the issue seems to be, it's not that, there's an issue with money missing or anything like that, but it's the tracking of expenses. It's something probably to do with the updating of the financial software that, somehow got dropped, when our finance, director left. And that's most likely the issue.
To my knowledge, there was no financial software update.
There have been no financial software updates.
Correct.
Oh, then that would probably be the issue why we're not getting correct reports,
There wasn't anything wrong with them beforehand,
right?
and now there is. So
Okay.
from what I understand, from this, what the city manager was saying is that when we plugged in the numbers for this budget, something went awry with the software to pop out incorrect numbers. That's why I would like a reconciliation for the last
I agree.
4 months.
Right. I agree 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, the budget appears to be fine. The money, everything's there. The money or the data that was uploaded to was STW. That data seems to be corrupted in some manner. And that's where the auditors want to come in and be able to help us see where it went wrong.
All right. Thank you.
I think when we say budget, a budget is projected information. I think what we want to see is the actual financial statements, just for the.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and move on to the Visitor and Citizen Forum. So we do have a couple of people that have requested to speak. Hopefully, we've got at least a couple that stayed, and sorry for the ones that had to leave. How about Kevin? Is it Solar? Is that Seller? Okay, and if you'll just give us your address and yeah, that's good.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Kevin Saller, 402 Lone Court. Hope everybody's doing well.
Yes.
Just a little bit about myself. I've been a resident here in Kennedale for 9 years. My wife and I We moved here because we fell in love with the small town feel, but big city amenities that are close by, and have since started a family. We have 2 girls that attend Delaney. Been a wonderful experience. Just the community, the neighborhood, and then the town itself. And so it's unfortunate that the reason that brought me down here is a disturbance that's happening in our neighborhood. And you may see several neighbors that are here with me. There was a few that had to leave, unfortunately, and quite a few more that couldn't make it, but sent there to support. We've had several short-term rental properties that have popped up in our neighborhood that have caused quite the disturbance. To kind of help paint a image of what we've been going through. The last weekend, we were exposed to a party that was taking place at one of the properties, over 20 vehicles. By my count, 30 people that entered the residence. It caused such a disruption that we had to have neighbors park a block away because they couldn't get in and out of their driveways because of the amount of vehicles there. 2 weeks ago, there was a large school bus that was parked at one of these rentals. And I kid you not, it wasn't a small bus. It was a big yellow bus that was parked there. And I've got pictures and welcome you to stop by and take a look at that. So it led myself and neighbors to kind of understand, okay, time out, what's happening here? Big yellow school buses, shouldn't be parked in driveways of residential properties, right? And so, to our delight, we found that our city was very thoughtful and put in some good city ordinance to prevent those things from happening. Unfortunately, we found that a lot of these properties were in violation of a lot of these city ordinance, and most specifically, one in particular, which is City Ordinance 666, Section 11-316, which does not allow for short-term rental properties to be within 500 feet of each other. In this case, the property share a fence line. So all that said, we have reached out. Mr. Gonzalez has been a wonderful person to work with, very responsive. I feel guilty for him because I know he's been here 2 or 3 weeks. May have not accepted the job had he known what he stepped into, but we're glad to have him and glad that he's here. And he's been very attentive to our needs and understanding what's happening. And I feel confident that we can reach a resolution, through collective effort. But it was important tonight that we got this on the city's radar because there are 2 important questions that we have to answer. One is, how did we allow this to happen? Most importantly, with the 2 Airbnbs that are adjacent to each other. And then secondly is, what is the resolution, or what can we do as a community about this? Because first and foremost, as I mentioned, I'm a father of 2 girls. We live in a very family-friendly neighborhood. Safety is the utmost concern. And so when you get these large amounts of visitors that you don't know that emerge, and these amount of vehicles, and it does in today's society, it's already scary enough being a parent and what's out there. And, when you invite this into your neighborhood, is that necessarily what we intended as a community when we, established these ordinances a couple of years ago? And so I asked the city council, is it time maybe we take a look at, do we have enough restrictions in place? And are we unfortunately seeing some unintended consequences that are happening as a result of this? So again, I really appreciate all the support that the community has shown and the city has shown, and look forward to working with you. Thank you for your time.
Mr. City Attorney, may I please ask one question?
Really, it's not time for deliberations, of course, and public comments. If it's a legal question, we should probably do it in executive session.
It's not a legal question. I just didn't hear where he was. I didn't hear the address. I'm sorry. When he
You
began
can certainly
speaking.
ask him to repeat it, yeah.
That's all I wanted.
402 Lone Oak Court. Lone
Oak.
Oak Court. 3 words, yeah.
Mhm.
No, I promise I live here in Kennedale.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And Brenda Joyner? And again, just state your address.
Gotcha.
Good evening. Happy holidays, everyone, and thank you for your time this evening. Brenda Kent Joyner. I live at 1011 Bell Oak Drive. And I'm probably the only one in our neighborhood that my home is, here's my home. And I have 2 Airbnbs that back up to my backyard. So, I concur with our neighbor is that, we would hope the ordinance would cover us so that we don't have 2 that are back to back and right against my back fence in my backyard. The other, I think compliance that would help us in the regard is the limitation of hours that people are just hanging out in the front and the backyards and partying. I know I was out there just telling my neighbors that just left just Sunday before I knew I was coming to this meeting that I looked over my fence about a week ago. I go, really? It's 2:30 in the morning. You're playing cornhole and throwing things and it's missing it and it's hitting my fence and coming over the fence into my backyard. And we're all very courteous in our little neighborhood. We're really close. We have a lot of children. We all look after each other's children. I don't have any, but I consider all the little kids in my neighborhood, something I need to be paying attention to as a citizen and a neighbor. And you bring in an element that you just don't know who they are. Not that they're bad or otherwise, you're just not sure. And I didn't know I was speaking before, just yesterday, but, I think that it became relevant when I knew that I had 2 that back up to my fence. So I'm hoping that as a community and with us as citizens that we can figure out a way to put a compliance, of those parameters and make sure that those guidelines are met, whether it's distancing or how many or the hours or how many people. 30 people in a home is quite a few. I don't even have that over at Christmas. So that's pretty much my thoughts on it.
Thank you so much.
All
And
right.
thank you both for waiting.
Do you mind if I make a comment? Just kind of feed off of what your complaint is. As you are aware, Mr. Gonzalez is on top of it. We are addressing some of the issues that you're bringing up tonight. Also, if you have something that's going on that's interfering at 2:30 in the morning, call the police department. That's why they're here, is to be able to help you in that manner. And you don't have to go and address them yourself. So use the services that are here for you, and the police department can go and take care of that. If you have other complaints that's coming through, sometimes we just don't know about it. And this is one of them. We just didn't know there was an Airbnb there until you get a bus that's parked outside and you're wondering why. So that does happen. Let us know then, and we have the options of going out and correcting some of those issues. So thank you for bringing them to us, and we'll take care of it.
Okay, we're going to move into our consent agenda. We have 4 items, minutes to approve, and it did come to our attention that October 18th minutes were left out, so those will be on our next month's meeting. Do I have a motion to approve as presented?
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. And now we are going to go into executive session. The Kennedale City Council reserves the right to meet in executive session at any time during the meeting pursuant to the below cited sections of the Texas Government Code. Pursuant to 551.071, consultation with the city attorney pertaining to any matter in which the duty of the city attorney under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct may conflict with the Open Meetings Act, including discussions of any item posted on the agenda, legal issues regarding the Open Meetings Act. Number 1 is Carmali Holdings, and number 2 is an update on the UDC, the Uniform Development Code revision. pursuant to 551.072, deliberation regarding the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. And the address is 6890 Hudson Village Creek Road. Pursuant to 551.087, deliberation regarding commercial or financial information that the governmental body has received from a business prospect that the governmental body seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in or near the territory of the governmental body, and with which the governmental body is conducting economic development negotiations, or two, deliberate the offer of a financial or other incentive to a business prospect described by a subdivision. And then last is pursuant to 551.074, deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, or to hear a complaint or charge against an officer or employee. And we will take a break between the time that we will recess. You want it 10 minutes? 10 minutes.
Please.
So we'll say 7:25 in executive session.